combination of towers of doom. So Gale Force Esports, when everything is on the line, still willing to stick towards that first pick.
To me, it screams first pick Malfurion or Garrosh, then make that play on that Tracer, get that Jaina in the mix somewhere, because I feel like whatever worked for them in the Simplicity series, they need to find a way to get back to that. I think that having 3 picks before that second ban allows them to kind of get 2 of their heroes that they really like to prioritize. So to me, like, look, it doesn't matter the battleground. We need to get what makes us comfortable.
And after that last game, I'll be honest, I not only on an individual level, I feel like Yoda really stood out on that Greymane, obviously with how many resets he was able to get, but it was mainly how fast he was following up on the Muradin kill target. It just felt like that Greymane level of play has, especially since, you know, nerf after nerf after nerf over the past year, he has not seen that level of impact. But in that last game, we got that from Yoda. So that's something that I'm pleasantly surprised from, and I'm hoping to see from Yoda again in this game, whether that be on a Greymane or anything else for that matter.
Fan Greymane saw the minor nerf on his Worgen form Q, but it wasn't really that. Was it Phoenix that kind of pushed him out? Obviously, we know Hanzo objectively stronger, but Greymane, we haven't seen a lot of him after seeing a lot in the early part of the year.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I really like Greymane. I think he's still quite strong, but a lot of the meta heroes outrange him. You mentioned Phoenix, Hanzo as 2 of the good examples. So to play Greymane well, you have to really understand when to trade and when not to trade, and that's gotten a lot harder with the inclusion of these new heroes. But I still think he's quite strong overall.
I'm glad you say that, because I think he kind of disappeared, and I didn't understand why I missed him. It's good to see him back.
Yeah.
At least for one game.
Also Cassia. Cassia wrecks Greymane, but
she's pretty good.
Looks like we're sticking with the same bands here, Medivh and Maiev.
No Malfurion or Garrosh committed to yet.
It'd be hard to imagine that isn't one of the first picks, right?
I'm trying to figure out if it is. It's got to be in a DPS avenue. Like, by no means do you mix that up with a Stukov or anything like I feel like in the first pick selection. Going to commit to the Malfurion. Just took a little bit longer to think it out here for Gale Force. Understandably so. Again, ladies and gentlemen, if Gale Force ends up losing this series, they're going to be sent packing, if you will, up until phase number 2.
The Stukov has had really high priority for Team Freedom. They have not picked it up pre-second ban.
Yeah.
It's been first rotation, except for when they had first pick, which they had a Medivh first game.
And
makes
take that in your first pick makes a lot of sense. Still got into 2-3 in that exact same draft.
Yeah.
I think both these heroes are very susceptible to the flank potential dive. If Gale Force needs to go, I think this is Genji or Tracer, depending on which route you want to go. But I feel one of those has to be considered to counter it. And I don't know if you can opt to get rid of that, but they still are that Jaina fan.
Well, they can still pick it up on the second half. It's somewhat unlikely that Team Freedom will pick one of those 2 and ban the other one. Possible, but unlikely. This is just, you know, GFE's going with what they know. Those 3 heroes are literally the classic GFE. You know, win early game and try and snowball, so.
Does Dahaka get picked up by Freedom, or does it even get let through? Because I imagine that if Gale Force is, if they can, they would like it. I don't know if it gets through.
I don't think it does make it that far. Not on a map like Towers.
Well, look, we got Tracer and Genji. It's like, well, pick your poison, because one of them's probably coming.
Personally, I would like to see the ban on the Tracer out of those 2, rather than Genji. If I was afraid of one or the other, it's very much got to be the Tracer.
Yeah, Tracer is, I would say, a higher threat to Hanzo than Genji, just because Genji kind of needs either space to Dragon Blade, or he needs to X-Strike perfectly if he wants to get anywhere close to 100 owing a Hanzo, whereas Tracer, all she needs to do is land the bomb and land the Parting Gift and the W, which is a lot easier to do. But they decide with the Cassia instead.
Greymane, right?
Yeah.
Very likely.
I mean, if not, is it Jimmy? Like, you know, what other meta auto attackers? Maybe Phoenix?
Yeah, it could be Phoenix, and to a lesser extent, it could be something like Genji as well. Even though Genji does have a lot of magic damage, a lot of his damage over time is still reliant on his autos. But definitely hints pretty heavily towards the Greymane or perhaps the Phoenix.
I mean, Greymane, I think, does do well against both Genji and Tracer. So it's never a bad pick, I think, if you're looking to try and counter that. But obviously, you know, Genji coming in, you never know. I mean, it's a very different story. The thing about Jaina when you're on the side of Gale Force is that doesn't necessarily mean it's Michael Udall or
Big impact, yeah. Can flex it over both ways. I'm expecting to see them wait out. Oh, I was going to say the frontliner for Team Freedom. At least the main warrior be willing to wait out on that. But they end up locking in the ETC and the Blaze for themselves. The Blaze not surprised, especially after the Dahaka ban. But I feel like the Dahaka ban was the intent of you take the Blaze, we're comfortable with the Thrall. So what do we see as the last pick on the side of GFE?
Look, I'm just going to throw this out here. We've seen a lot of Tranquility. Jaina has no interrupts. Twilight Dream is normally an interrupt, but if it's not there, who's your mosh pit interrupt?
It's a good call. How do you get that?
Thunder, but other than that, yeah, he might be forced to go Thunder if they don't pick any more mosh interrupts, which they end up not.
Then we get ourselves that last pick into the Tracer here for GFE.
Greymane seems... I mean, a Greymane into a Jaina Thrall, though?
It's not bad, but it's not the best either.
We've seen Tychus in the past. Tychus does do well against Tracer just because of Neo Steel Coding and, of course, Odin.
Yeah, Tychus and Phoenix both can stand up to Tracer extremely well. Greymane can do okay against Tracer, but the other two can negate her Pulse Bomb almost completely or completely, so kind of depends where they want to go here.
The warp out of a Pulse Bomb. Always a fun one.
My main concern for GFE right now is the top lane, though. When you have the Thrall versus Blaze matchup, unless you're going to be camping that, 24/7 with the Tracer in a 2v1, Thrall is going to get out-cleared extremely hard, and Blaze is going to rotate down. It's almost as if Freedom has a Dahaka at this point, just because they're going to get out-cleared extremely hard. Blaze is constantly going to be 5v4ing the bottom side of the map, so...
Will you maybe break down the intricacies of that 1v1 a little bit more on the trade-off of winning and kill potential versus the winning off and the wave clear itself? Because I feel like a lot of people at home really struggle with going like, we watch these offlaners slap each other all day for like hours on end. It's like, when does one get an upper hand over the other? And I feel like this is a clear case, right? With Blaze versus the Thrall, both are very good at different things.
Yeah, for me, the offlane can consist of 3 different things. You either want the offlane to be a global, or you want it to clear very quickly and then rotate, which is almost like a global because you out-clear the other laner. The other laner is stuck in the lane and you're helping your team while he's clearing the remainder of the wave. And the third one is you just straight up win the 1v1 and you win the lane that way. So Blaze versus Thrall, Blaze is going to out-clear Thrall. Thrall has no AoE. He's going to clear the minion wave, he's going to ignore Thrall, and then he's just going to leave. And while Thrall is stuck top dealing with minions, he's going to be helping his team in a 5v4 on the bottom side of the map. And
then Thrall's saying typically, if he has one, it's going to be like bullying in the 1v1 through his sustain and his survivability and his threat capabilities here. I agree with you, though. I think that offlane is going to very much be a concern, and that Blaze rotation is going to give the upper hand here. We'll find out. We got Towers of Doom in game number 3 right here for you guys.
Gale Force, they're going to see if they can hold on, but more importantly, Team Freedom trying to seal this series and move on to their Saturday matchup, potentially against that of Team 12. So we'll see if they can clutch it out. So far, 2 games in, Dreadnought, they've looked pretty good, pretty stable so far, making a serious claim for tomorrow's showing.
Look at this, a level 1 adjustment here. Arsenal Synergy picked up for Yoda on that Phoenix at level 1 after hitting, heroes with basic attacks 3 times with the repeater cannon being the fast auto-attacking version of Phoenix. The next basic attack with the phase bomb deals 175% more damage and it splashes 50% area. It's a huge amount of range and damage potential there whenever you get the swap over. Makes it really easy to go, 1, 2, 3, swap, here's my 4th.
Instant clear, instant rotation, and Team Freedom recognizing that it's going to be difficult for them to try and match that. So just kind of make things a little bit different. This is an interesting setup. Yoda obviously in the top lane. We'll see if Thrall maybe gets a little bit too ambitious. But you can actually see on the minimap, Tracer, she's like, well, I saw you in the mid lane, Blaze. Surely you've got to make your way up at some point, right?
But this is exactly what Fan was talking about, right? With, the off lanes, with the kind of priority towards that offlane. Thrall and Phoenix do trade off a little bit different than, hold up though, nice flip into that root. Nasmus maybe got to get body blocked to death here. He very much will. Ends up giving the first blood here over to Gale Force Esports after a nice gank potential there. I was going to say Thrall versus Phoenix, it comes down to the kill potential of the two, and Thrall actually is very, very comfortable into that. It's not the same exact kind of conundrum, but Tracer is going to be putting a lot of attention towards that top lane and trying to make sure she can find a couple of picks.
Right now, both teams making their priority towards The Sapper Camp's going to be picked up here first by Team Freedom. Gale Force going to get theirs as well, just a few seconds behind. And when you talk about winning a lane, I mean, one of the best ways to win a lane is if you are a ranged hero. It's really hard for melee to kind of out-sustain you, and when you're on a Phoenix, you very rarely take actual health damage.
Sapper trade on the bottom half. Hold up, though. Big impact, tracking it down. He does have the pulse bomb. Minion wave gets in the way. Not going to commit there after that Feral Spirit. If he had one more blink and that Feral Spirit was communicated, he could have blinked pulse bomb, maybe gotten the recall out, but either way, a little bit of aggression there towards the top half of the map for Gale Force, and you know, they were comfortable with the bottom half too. Normally when you see that much pressure given by Tracer on the top half, it comes off at a trade for Freedom on the bottom half, but not going to be the case, at least not yet.
Lutano getting a little bit of damage. Again, softening this up is just setting up for future experience. The raw roots are going out, but they were actually very well placed because Lutano would have had to path through there, but using that agility, obviously much longer cooldown now than it used to be, so take away one of those. We've got the camp here. B-Kid coming in on a Nasmus. That's 3 members.
That interrupted Warp.
Gale Force here.
Warp's interrupted. He has no escape now. Great job there by Fury, flipping over onto the point. Now B-Kid trying to cut out. Zugrug power slide in. He's going to lock in that kill. Now Nasmus is the focus. Big impact. He's going to go ahead and get that kill after the flip out from Fury. 2 more kills here over to Gale Force Esports.
That's a pretty positive trade if you're on the side of Gale Force. So far, they've sniffed a lot of this out. As you had mentioned, they gave up a little bit in the bottom, but in terms of getting that early game pacing, you know, one of the things that fans said, I couldn't agree with him more, is make Team Freedom uncomfortable. Find a way to really create issues in the beginning. It's still really early, but it is one of those things that if you're looking to disrupt pacing alone, that's one way to do it.
Yeah, they're finding it, at least for now. Phoenix did end up capturing the top left. Thrall's going to lock down the top right, so it's going to be a 4 versus 4 here on mid. Actually, Thrall is going to make the rotation down while Phoenix is still staying in the top lane. So Gale Force Esports should have the upper hand here. Should be able to pick this up over the next couple of seconds. Phoenix is now showing himself, identifying the situation, and realizing that he needs to get as much pressure as possible. Zugrug's still having the power slide. Fury, though, goes for that groundbreaker.
They've got one interrupt there. Nice Blizzard hitting down. Lutano took a lot of damage. The Pulse Bomb goes in. Biggie landing that Pulse Bomb right as Fury tossed him. That could have been a little bit anti-synergistic, but they were able to make that happen. Now the Sapper Camp spawning again. Looks like Gale Force is taking control of this early game.
Yeah, and the entire time B-Kid was in a little bit of a 2 versus 1 there with the Phoenix Blaze trying to zone them off to make sure they couldn't interrupt, and was able to succeed. That's one of those situations where you'd be like, well, Thrall, you know, a little bit on the squishier end, and then 2 versus 1, that's where you're able to capitalize because so many efforts are considered towards the bottom half of that skirmish. But Gale Force, again, now winning on what feels like a little bit of all fronts.
You know, we also see that synergy. You talked about that level 1 talent for Phoenix. We are seeing the warp, the increased attack speed at that level 7. So that's one way to really speed up the process to get value out of that. Fury, when he's on Garrosh, he likes to just throw people around. I mean, who can blame him?
Just fun, you know? Normally you'd make the argument, well, I'm stacking my level 1, but now you're just making the argument, you know, because it's a lot of fun.
Speaking of stacking level 1, we can see Thrall just finished his Echo quest. Maybe get a little bit more poke damage in there, getting that extra. There's a toss back in.
You can see the difference there with that root placed by Akave's. Nice slow from Mikey Dahl. It's going to be enough to lock it down. The Groundbreaker. Iceland's missed. If that actually landed, I'm pretty sure if it wasn't a kill, it would have been a lot closer there. But not making that hit for Mikey Dahl, and it's going to buy a bit of breathing room. But you saw the increased range, distance, and the effects. And we talk about this. Whenever you get those few talents that do impact range, as a follow-up support, it's actually very hard to adjust on the fly. And so it's going to be important that, you know, those roots get a little bit better place, or the flip being at the heart of the roots themselves here for Gale Force Esports as this game moves on.
That root just barely missed from B-Kid. So I think that could have been a potential kill, but now we're going to see the altar spawning at the bottom. So far, nobody in position yet to capture it for Team Freedom. Team Freedom does, however, have a slight lead in case this stalls out towards that race for level 10. They also have Blaze and Phoenix split off, so this is a 4 versus 3. I don't know if Hanzo can get here. I don't think so. This should be a free channel here for Gale Force.
It is going to be a channel there as they end up picking up those shots. Freedom here very concerned about the 10s. Phoenix doing his best to get the split pressure on the top half of the map. To be honest, I don't run this build on Phoenix enough to know how threatening it could be from a split pushing front, you know, with that auto attack, you know, burst on the with the level 7 talent, excuse me, mixed with that synergy that you might be able to get. I guess if there's no hero in lane, it's not going to change too much with that level 1, but, you know, Phoenix in general, pretty good at the split push, able to get the front wall.
Look, Zugrog hasn't locked in his heroic, but he's looking at that other side. He's like, do I see if there's a Twilight Dream? Even then, I still think it's likely. And because of this potential setup, Dragon Arrow into a potential mosh pit, we got ourselves another Planet Cracker. And a little ding.
Hold up. Sundering, splitting out Nasmus. Welly looking to get that slow on Nasmus a bit more. The bunker's going to be used. Now that leads a lot of body blocking. Blizzard goes down. The Planet Cracker's there. Pulse Bomb as well. Nasmus is going to be sent back home. Gale Force find themselves another kill, utilizing that Jaina pick they love so much.
Yeah, you know, that's a really big cooldown to try and save somebody. Generally, it's like, all right, I don't want to use a big cooldown to save. But Planet Cracker,
it's like 100 seconds,
yeah,
isn't it?
it's definitely not short. It is indeed 100 seconds. I mean, I didn't see, I mean, the threat is there. Speaking of threat, Michael, you're all eating a lot of damage. They're going to get a kill on the Stukov, though.
The
There's a mosh pit.
They're turning this around a little bit. Lutano's like, man, if I had redemption stacks right now, he's looking for him, gaining quite a few. Aquaface is going to be the focus. Power slide goes through. A flip over.
And the taunt and the roots. Biggie coming down. Let's see if he can get onto Lutano there. He's getting the damage. There's Pulse Bomb, and he barely gets out.
This guy, he's slithering through the members of Team Freedom to make sure he had that. Got to have respect for Yoda. They're trying to maybe question if he would get too close to that sidewall. The splash damage maybe lock in the kill, but not going to be the case. Shots consumed on the top half, both raining 4 shots towards their opponent's side as the core sit here now 24-32. Gale Force Esports has a moment of momentum here in this game. We've watched Big E on that Tracer constantly being able to get the picks. We've even seen it without Big E, they're getting kills left and right here against Team Freedom. They've just been instilling chaos, and Freedom really hasn't ever found a moment to kind of recollect themselves.
7 kills to 2, a very different game this time for Gale Force, despite giving up quite a bit in that split push scenario. We're looking for another fight. Michael Udall's got that water elemental out. The root not able to catch Phoenix. There's the power slide in by Zugrog. His positioning very aggressive. I don't think that it's back down the mosh pit. He's eating so much damage. ETC. He just split into like 6 different pieces.
Yeah, it's on one side there was the the prime steak. The other one we had the New York cut. It was just he was ripped apart.
B-Kid using that Wind Fury, seeing if he can maybe close the distance on Nasmus, but I was really surprised at the positioning because I'm pretty sure mosh pit, there's no way it's been 2 minutes. Maybe I'm wrong, but he willingly stepped into that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was sitting in the same thought process, I was silently thinking at the
Fury's
same time
like,
there.
Okay.
Instead of loudly thinking. I don't know why I had to put a preface on that one, but 13 Talents here is going to be here for both teams. Mosh Pit will be back online, along with, we saw the Planet Cracker mixed with the bunker use on the top half. That's going to be back up for Team Freedom here. Almost every heroic, I think, should be available for both teams in the skirmish, so.
I really wonder how aggressive Yoda's going to be because he went the Warp Talent at level 13, which you get 40 armor for a handful of seconds there. Not able to get the toss back. Nice face melt there by Zugrug. We'll see how that plays in. Water Elemental out, giving vision and zoning potential right now. Planet Cracker used to interrupt. There's going to be a root onto Jaina. There's going to be a power slide in.
Great cleanse from Aquaface. Buys a bit of time to flip over. The taunt as well. ETC taking a lot of damage, and he's going to drop. Nasmus looking to turn things around there on the Blaze. Has to bunker. Lutano's already sitting at 1 shot over that wall. Team Freedom has to back out because that Thrall damage alone is almost enough to secure the kill on Lutano. Another flip. Jet Propulsion going to be body blocked. Now Freedom lose another member, and Yoda able to warp out. Gale Force now pick up the shots.
They also have to defend. You can see Tracer moving down immediately to defend against those sappers, and there's still 7 seconds left on their own sapper camp at the bottom right. So Gale Force, if they want to try and take control, death timer's still a bit short to maybe look towards getting some of these bottom bell towers down, but definitely gaining some control. As you can see, they're starting to get a little bit of a lead. They weren't able to get it because of the amount of macro pressure that they've given up in those split lanes, but it feels like those split lanes, Dread, might be hurting Team Freedom a little bit too much on the macro this go-round.
I mean, it very much has gotten to the point where, for how much 1-1-3 we've seen ran out of Team Freedom through a majority of this game and how often it's been, Thrall's making the rotation down faster than that of the Phoenix, you'd be looking at this game and you'd be like, well, that top bell tower's probably been worked on pretty well, right? But outside of that middle, or that front wall dropping, there's been little to no damage and little to no preparation, because sometimes we'll see teams do that. You set it up, be like, sacrifice this, 2 3 times deep, you find yourself at like, oh, this bell tower's at 10%. We'll just leave it there. Now back out, stick to the fight, wait till you win an objective, then convert everything over at once. But I mean, at this point, it's just been, again, a maybe misallocation of resources.
Right now, Sapper's being dealt with here in the bot lane. Can't charge when you're silent, so they do clean that up, but it does buy quite a bit of rotation out here for Gale Force. A little bit of extra time here. They have picked up 16 as well. Yoda using that warp in, seeing if he can get aggressive. Unable to do so. We're now sitting at triple altar phase, Dreadnought. 16 talent tier here for Gale Force. Not so much for Team Freedom. Team Freedom, they're going to have to start turning things around soon because Gale Force, 10 kills to 2. They've been killing it.
They have been. I don't know if they've been killing it as much as they've been killing Freedom, but they're killing something. 9 seconds out here. Posturing around, Team Freedom questioning if they can get that 16 for themselves. Top left is the safest here for Team Freedom, which you see Blaze making that pickup, but Big Impact's not having that.
They see Tracer now, which means they can be aggressive. Can Team Freedom? Water Elemental was used to buy a little bit of space, but I think now with Tracer showing, I don't think that they can take this.
Blaze got the interrupt as well. Now the rotation up to the top half of the map. 15 still not going to be found for Team Freedom. That is an ambitious rotation. The fact that Team Freedom is willing to move up, yeah, through that choke without the 16, that is insane. They end up buying enough time. Warp comes out. Pressure onto B-Kid as he's going to get slowed.
I think they're conceding this. Jaina's already started the sappers at the bottom. Yoda's thinking, hey, I got this. We traded out. They got the channel. He puts the spray down. Again, with with Stukov on the enemy team against sappers, I mean, it's so incredibly difficult. They didn't get the channel up at the top. They had 16 talent tier advantage, Dread. If I'm